Will Wade may be one of the most polarizing coaches in college basketball, but what is undeniable, I should say, is all he has done at every single stop is win. Earlier this morning, I got a chance to catch up with the McNeese head coach about his program and what may be coming up in his future.
I know you are getting ready to play your alma mater. You've spoken at length about this, about what a great place it is, the people you care about there, and we all know you're a big football fan. My question, though, is, were you surprised when you saw your alma mater on the line? I mean, this seems like it was just the NCAA's latest version of NCAA tournament cinema.
You know, I wasn't surprised because there's a group of about 3 to 5 teams I felt like we were most likely to play, and they were one of them. When you just kind of look at where we were going to be seated and where they're seated and that sort of thing. So I wasn't necessarily surprised. I think sometimes it just falls that way with the NCAA. I don't think the selection committee had any idea that, hey, he went there, he was a manager there, and now he's got this manager, Amir Khan, and that sort of thing. So, I don't think there was any idea of that, but just one of those deals where we were one of the bottom 12 seeds. Us and Liberty were the last 2 12 seeds, and Clemson was close to that 4 line. It was really close with them and Purdue, I think, and they were one of the best 5 seeds, and so we got paired with them.
You've talked about the challenge of going against their size, particularly along the front line. You guys are more undersized but athletic. Strategically, what can you try and do to compensate for that in this game?
Well, we're going to have to make it hard to throw the ball in there. We're going to have to use our quickness down low and try to keep the ball out as best we can. But you're in a tough spot because even if you keep the ball out, it puts you in a disadvantage rebounding. And they've got one of the premier rebounders, if not the best rebounder in college basketball. And so, we're going to struggle in one of the two. And we've got to hope that we can compensate and make up for it by getting a few steals and being a little bit more disruptive on the defensive end and not letting them get the ball inside. They're top 10 in the country in scoring off post-ups and throwing the ball inside. And so we've got to do as good a job as we can of limiting those opportunities.
You've now won as a head coach at every level. And one of the things that occurred to me, this NCAA tournament, Rick Pitino was all over the news. A couple of years ago when he was at Iona, he said, it is harder to do it here than it is at the high major level. I wanted to get your perspective on that sentiment and which level is the hardest?
No question. This level is the hardest. Zero doubt. He's 100% right on that. I think there's a lot of people, and I don't say this, I'm not saying this about me. I think there's a lot of people at this level that can go to the high major level and win. There's 4 or 5 coaches in our conference that are excellent coaches and run great programs. There's not a ton. The number of high major coaches that could come down to this level and deal with all of our players were joking yesterday, like, hey, we get to the tournament, we get a nice bus. I mean, the bus company we use, we went to 2 games, we didn't even have air conditioning in our bus. To deal with all the stuff, our staff, we were at dinner last night with our players and we were joking. I mean, we had seats taken from us on a connecting flight back from South Dakota for the first game. And so me and 2 of my assistants and one of our GAs, we rented a car and drove back from Dallas. So we gave our seats up to our players so they could get back. I mean, there's just stuff like that happens at this level that's just unimaginable, to most people who haven't been here. But hey, you just roll with it, and it's all good. But also, I mean, the pressure in those tournaments. Now, we're fortunate in the Southland that we have to win. If you get a double bye to the semis, so you only have to win 2 games in 2 days. And ours is on our home court, which is a huge advantage. But, I mean, the pressure, I don't know if I've ever been in this pressure-packed a game as I was when we played Lamar for the championship a couple of days ago. I mean, it was a back-and-forth game. They're a great team. Coach Brooks has a great program. And, we were very, very fortunate to win that. But the pressure where it all comes down to those 40 minutes, I mean, you play great for 3 months and it comes down to 40 minutes. You just have more margin for error at the high major level than you do at this level, and it's very, very challenging. It's very, very difficult.
the common denominator at all of your stops as a head coach, when you have found success, is that you've always passed on the credit to the players. I think the quote, if I get this accurate, is "Don't credit the jockey, credit the horses," or something to that extent. My question is, regardless of level, when you approach roster construction, is there a first domino, whether it's an archetype or position, that you prioritize initially?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. You're not winning the Kentucky Derby on a mule, so you better have the best thoroughbreds you can have. I think every coach is different. For us, you need a good point guard, and we've won with a lot of different point guards. But if you got a point guard, a scorer, and some sort of four-man, a 1, 2, and a 4, if you got those three positions, and those three guys are good players, can play professionally at some level, you've got a good team. So we try to spend a lot of time, making sure we find the right point guard, and we've won with point guards that can't score. We've won with scoring point guards. We've won with also, small guards with Tremont Waters. Big guards with Javonte Smart and guys like that. We got a 6'6" point guard, Copeland here at McNeese, and so. We've won with all types of point guards, and then you get somebody who can score alongside of them, and you get a four-man who can pass and shoot or pass and drive. You got to have some sort of skilled big, and so we put a lot of time into evaluating those three positions and finding the right guys at those spots. And if you look at McNeese, the conference player of the year the last 2 years has been kind of our combo guard, and the conference defensive player of the year and the leading rebounder has been our four-man. So, we try to really hone in on those spots, and then we can fill in the rest of the roster from there.
My perception is that both because you give so much of the credit to your players, but also because so many of the narratives around you now externally surround recruiting, is that you are a vastly underrated tactical coach. And I know you're super humble when anybody asks you about that, so that's not my question. My question is from an offensive perspective, because I think that's the end of the floor that you have often spearheaded yourself. What goes into your philosophy, and are there any primary influencers or mentors that have helped dictate that?
A lot of it's just stuff we cook up, and we study other teams, study other people, and try to put our guys in the best position, to win. I mean, to me, basketball is a pretty simple game. The team that can get in the paint the most and the team that can keep the other team out of the paint the most is going to win. And so we try to build our philosophies around that. If you can get in the paint, you're going to create rotation. You're going to create offensive rebound increases, which our teams have been really good offensive rebounding teams. So we want guys that can create rotation and get in the paint. But my job offensively is pretty simple. I get our best offensive players on their worst defensive players and give them space and let them go to work. And then, look, they've got to be able to judge if there's a height mismatch or a positional mismatch. You got to drive that guy. If there's a spatial mismatch, meaning the guy's playing way off of you, you got to shoot it. And if there's a numerical mismatch, meaning they run two guys at you or they have three guys on you, you got to pass it. And so, we basically make it that simple. Now it's a little more complex than that, but we want to get our best offensive players on their worst defenders in space where they can make simple reads.
Got a little bit of a different type of question for you here today. You were studying in college at Clemson to be a high school history teacher, if I'm not mistaken, and a manager at Clemson. I heard someone ask you how that shaped your coaching philosophy, and one of the answers you gave is that you saw it from a different perspective. You don't accept universal truths. And so I'm wondering, from that contrarian standpoint, can you give me an example of something that maybe you're contrarian about, whether it's in your coaching philosophy or approach to roster construction?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not tied to kind of the normal philosophies. I think I mentioned some of it earlier. Like, I think you can win with we can win a lot of different ways. We've won with a lot of different teams. The places we've been, we just try to go get the best players, and then we'll fit the systems around that. We'll figure out how to win with those guys. I mean, sometimes we've played really, really fast. Sometimes we've played really, really slow. Most of the time, we're kind of a mid-tempo team. But we're we're malleable to whatever we're able to get through recruiting. But there's a lot of things. I mean, I don't believe in a lot of the norms with our program. I mean, look, if it doesn't affect winning, we're not worried about it. I don't spend 1 minute on stuff that doesn't affect winning. People joke Kyle Keller came down for a couple of days after he got let go at Stephen F. Austin. He's a good friend of mine. He came down and spent some time with us at McNeese, and he came in our offices and he said, "Golly, Coach, you got the same pictures up here from when Heath was the head coach, who's my AD now. The pictures are like 6 years old." I was like, "Yeah, it doesn't affect winning. I don't care. Nobody comes up here and looks at our pictures anyway. Like, why are we going to waste our time and money changing out pictures? Let's just, let's put it on stuff that affects winning." But more on the the team and basketball side, the teaching background comes in with, I teach a leadership class with the guys. We have a life lessons class. We do some different things like that to try to help the guys out. And because every coach says, "Hey, we need better leadership. We need better leadership." Nobody teaches the guys how to be a leader. They just say, "Hey, you got to be a better leader." Well, they don't know what that means. And so we've tried to put a little bit of meat on the bone there and put some stuff behind that where the guys understand, hey, this is how you lead, this is how you do things. And I think we've gotten some good dividends from that.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. My last question, and obviously it's no secret, your name is being mentioned, excuse me, for a lot of different jobs right now. You've talked about how important McNeese and the people there are for you, and that your next stop, wherever it may be and whenever it may be, is somewhere you want to be for a long time, mentioning your young family, and it needs to be a place that can compete nationally. In this day and age of college basketball, what does that need to entail?
Well, I think in this day and age, you can compete nationally in a lot of different places now. I think the way that everything's changed, it's not as, there's a lot of different places that can win. If they get behind you and they've got the resources, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to win. Whereas maybe before there were only a dozen places where you could realistically win a national title. I'd say that's at least doubled and maybe tripled to places where you can win a national title. And so, I think that you're looking at, you need obviously you need the resources for recruiting, and then you've got to have infrastructure around that. Getting the good players is only half the battle. Then you've got to put them in the right systems. You've got to hold them to the right standards. There's a lot of other things that come with that. And so how's the infrastructure to do all of that is critically important. So that's the sort of stuff when you're interviewing with schools or talking with schools, that's the sort of thing that you're focusing on. And so you want to be resourced in the top part of your league. And if you're resourced in the top part of your league, I always look at it. That's my job to, I'm not asking to be the best in the league, although that's great if you're the best in the league. But, if we're in the top 4 or 5, then it's my job to put the systems in place and to hold the line on the standards to make us, to make us pass some of those teams that maybe have a little bit more or better resources than we are. I always put it this way. We don't have to have the biggest mansion in the neighborhood, but we've got to have, a nice house with the best manicured lawn. We've got to have, our bushes trimmed every week. Like we've got to do all the little stuff that allows us to win.
Coach, I know your time is especially valuable right now. Thanks so much for taking some time with us here this morning.
Thanks for having me on, Adam. I appreciate it.